I follow a number of people who kind of do, or I don't know exactly what your category.
I don't know where I'm at either, to be honest.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I follow you, and what it appears like in the comments of your videos and on Twitter is that you have, and lots of people's followers do this, but you seem to have a lot of like angry men who follow you. And do you think it's possible that the way that you talk about women, maybe in your book or online, encourages kind of this almost like disgust towards women that aren't interested in these men?
I have fielded this question so many times. I can't even remember how many times I have. In fact, I just did a video on exactly this topic last Wednesday. There's a very notorious, I don't say notorious, but a very notorious, I guess, vlogger now whose name is Stardust. He also has a channel, I think it's called Thinking Ape, and he was proposing the same question. He was saying that, don't you think that all these guys, like the red pill's poisoned, and there's like guys shouldn't be aware of this stuff because it leads them down a dark path, right? It makes them like nihilistic. It makes them hopeless. It makes them despondent. And how guys such as myself or, whoever who are I try to present what I talk about in as neutral and as objective a way as like nuts and bolts as I can. I don't do judgment calls on my show. Okay. End of story. I connect dots, and I have a joke. I just work here. I show you the thing. But here,
wait. I feel like on that video you did of me, in the middle, there was a whole bunch of judgment. It's like, oh, we're not allowed to judge women. No, we are. Like there was some
men are not allowed to judge women. At the same, what I was talking about is I was trying to give an objective understanding of how we interpret judgment. Right now, when we talk about judging women, or like you'll find this out on Fresh and Fit, their entire show really is, the success of their show anyways, is rooted in holding women accountable. Like I just held you accountable just a minute ago. I told you I was giving you a primer for Fresh and Fit here. That's when that is presented to women, like the data that I just told you about, like I told you about the Morgan Stanley thing. I told you about, statistically speaking, at 29 years old with a child, the odds of you finding a guy that is going to be, a good match for you at that point. Like there's numbers, there's data sets for this. I can't really give it to you here because we're doing Zoom, but I can give you the data sets. And what happens is when you start using rational language in an emotional argument, there's a real disconnect there, because that's where judgment comes in. We hear this all the time. You will hear this in every damn Netflix series and every movie and everything that's been in popular culture, certainly for the last 20 years, which is it's what I call non-judgmentalism. It is, don't judge me, but, and that's how you start the conversation, right? Don't judge me, but blah, 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 blah. There's like an imperative as far as I'm concerned, is in a female primary gynocentric social order. There's an imperative to not be judged for your actions, to not be judged for the things that you've done, regardless of the consequences. However, we hold women to a different standard than we do for men when it comes to that judgment. If I said, I did this thing, I did this really shitty thing, but don't judge me, as a guy, guys are going to judge me because I have a burden of performance, and my respectability comes from what I do. If women do have, like, say, hey, I made some mistakes in the past, and now I'm getting right with God, I'm back in church, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and don't judge me, and then that we're far more willing to be non-judgmental with women than we are with men. That's what I was pointing out. Not that I was saying, okay, guys, here's what you do. I'm known for not giving prescriptions. I don't have 12 rules for life. I'm not going to give you a step-by-step thing. But what I do give guys is I give them tools. I give them tools to use to improve their lives and to build something with it. So when again, this is something I say all the time, is I'm not in the business of making men better men. I'm in the business of men making themselves better men by giving them the tools and giving the rational understanding of their position in the game that they happen to be in. So what the problem with that, and you probably understand this as well, is guys are looking for a step-by-step. They're looking for a formula. They're looking for something that's going to, like, okay, I finally found the secret. You want to know why this stuff is so marketable, or your dad's book is so marketable, both of them are so marketable, is because guys are looking for that step-by-step thing. That's why 12 rules sounds great. All I got to do is follow these and have a good life. Well, yeah, but you'll be a Jordan Peterson man. And I'm not looking to make Tomasi men. What I want to do is give guys this realistic, objective, like information so they can make educated decisions about their lives, to give them tools to build a better life in where they're at. Now, are guys like ready for this? Most guys aren't. And I agreed with Stardust. Most guys are not ready to be woken up. They're not ready to sort of be unplugged from the matrix, as we call it. But it's not me that's going to wake up the most men. It's the internet. Right now, we have access to information. Again, remember what I was talking about genetic lag? We have access to information in such a capacity now that in human history, we've never had this. In some cases, that's great, right? I can go and write a book, as Rolla Tomasi, and I can, publish it, through Amazon. I can do all these great things that I couldn't do before, but there's also downsides to it, like addiction to porn, addiction to social media. Or maybe you got guys who get really despondent and really nihilistic, even though I try to be as objective and, impartial, let's just say, in presenting this stuff. Well, some guys aren't ready for that because their state seems kind of hopeless where they're at. As you were saying before, you're a very smart girl, right? And what your IQ is, but certainly above average. Most guys, they're at average. I mean, what's the bell curve, right? You've got those guys right there. And a lot of those guys aren't going to say, oh, this is great. Now I know all this stuff. Now I'm red pill aware. Now I can build a better life for myself. They don't do that. They'll say, well, it's hopeless. I'm going to take myself out. I'm going to just be a hermit. I'm going to go monk mode, whatever their response to it is. That's why I say it's better to be in a position where you can sort of be a guide and help these guys sort of see what this information is and how they can use it to their own betterment. Most of these guys are discontent. And as I've said before, I believe that the human condition is discontent, and we can deal with that either constructively or destructively. So you're always going to be discontent. Why not build something better? Why not be more creative? Why not build, be the positive side of discontent is great, I think, because that discontent pushes you on to the next goal. Well, equally speaking, guys who aren't ready for that can go, oh, I'm just going to sedate myself with, porn and weed and, video games, which is the popular, concept that we say, oh, these guys need to man up and they're just not taking responsibility. That's the destructive discontent that I talk about. So you got that. And then my last question is this, and I pose this to anybody who says, oh, well, your stuff seems to be really negative. Well, it's only negative in the terms that you think that it would benefit, like, say, yourself or benefit women, or it seems very negative towards women because we have, for the longest time, promoted the interests of women. It's what I call the fempowerment narrative. We've given them Title IX. We've given them, no fault divorce. It's like if you look at from, say, like the advent of hormonal birth control, the sexual revolution, and you look at all this, put women in the workplace, and now we got, women who are professionals, who have babies, who, have got an education, and they can't find a man. That is a product, a result of what I call the fempowerment narrative. Is that for the better or for the worse? I've heard your dad say that we're still in the midst of this experiment, and that's where we're at. The experiment was, okay, here's hormonal birth control. We basically given control of the reproductive process to women, unilaterally to women at this point, through, on-demand abortion, through the idea, at least, that women can control, reproductive rights, reproductive, choice. We do all that. And so now here we are in 2021, and we have the products of that, but we don't want to look back and say what led up to this. We don't want to look back at the history and say, how do we get those numbers? How do we get those spikes in, divorce? And how do we get the decline of marriage right now? Marriage is at its lowest ebb since they started keeping numbers back in 1890. And so why is that? Well, we want to say, well, it's men and they're not taking responsibility. No, it's a combination of all kinds of things that have cascaded to where we're at right now. So the basic question is this, and most people are going to have to answer this, whether they're red pill, whether they hear it from me or you or anybody else, is would you rather be happy or would you rather be right? Because you can stick your head in the sand. You can all say, you know what, I'm going to log off. I'm going to have a great day out on the slopes because it just snowed. I'm going to take my snowmobile out. I'm not going to think about jack shit. Okay, I can do that, but I'm still in the back of my head saying, okay, I got to go do post. I got to do this. I got to stay on top. I got to stay plugged in. So I'm not ignorant of the information that could, affect my life or whatever. But when it comes to the fundamental question is, now that we have access to, let's just say, more accurate information. And again, that can be politically, religiously, personally, romantically, whatever. I have more access now in the 21st century than I ever did before. And now that I'm aware of this, it's like the tree that fell off the fruit that fell off the tree that Eve ate, right? I've got knowledge of good and evil all of a sudden. Well, now I've got that. What do I do with that information? How do I live better? And so that's the problem. I think that guys like Stardust, probably yourself, it seems like these guys get really negative, and they do, but they're going to have to deal with it. It's not me that's doing it and leading guys astray. They're going to get this information, whether I am here or I'm not. So to me anyways, it seems like it would be better to have a guide than to just sort of try to sort things out yourself.
Okay. I guess, so I think I agree with most of what you just said. Especially the fact that people need access to statistics and information properly. I guess the way I come at it is, so birth control, for instance, most women, and they're not generally aware of this, most women, they start taking the pill, they get massively depressed and like mentally ill, to be completely honest. And so that hasn't been advantageous for women either. In fact, if they're the ones on it, they're the ones that can be crazy. And that is a side effect that hits most people. But most people start it so young that they don't know that it's happening to them. That's awful. And people should be aware of that information before going on the pill. They should be aware of the fact that their sexual preferences change while they're on the pill. Like, this information should be spread around like what you're doing. But I don't think
100% agree. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think the fault is, I don't think the fault is necessarily with women, and I don't think the way to solve the problem is to go back. I don't think there is any going back. Like, you can't give women education, the ability to work in the workplace, and then tell the women who are super productive, oh no, you have to stay home. Like, you can't do these things. So we need to come up with a way forward with all the information so that people are aware, hey, if you wait until you're 30, you're going to have a harder time having kids. And that's not, society's fault. That's just biology, right? And so people should have access to this information. But when you give people access to the information, it shouldn't end up with anybody being angry about it, right? And I see in your comments, there are a lot of, like disgust at women, disgust at single mothers, when the way society is right now is really making everybody suffer.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I 100% agree. And you're looking at a demographic of guys that we call, like, I guess, the most extreme end of MGTOWs, like men going their own way. And there's also sort of like the black pill, which is like, it's all hopeless. And I think that when guys go from being what we call blue pill to being red pill, right? They're unplugging from this old way of thinking about things. They believed in an old order way of thinking. They believed in what I call the old set of books. It's like a rule set that guys have believed for a long time was what everybody else was using. And so they say, okay, well, if I do these things or follow this rule set, then I'll find a good girl and she'll love me just as much as I love her. And it's, that Disney Pixar kind of soulmate crap. And then they realize either generally through a point of trauma or crisis that people aren't playing by that rule set. And I think they're becoming, like, more and more men right now, especially, now 21 years into the 21st century, are becoming more aware of that. And for some guys, they get really upset and angry and nihilistic and despondent at that. I think I put it in my second book. There is a post that I converted into a chapter, and it's called the 5 stages of unplugging. And those 5 stages are synonymous with dealing with death, right? It's it's what is it? Denial, anger, acceptance. You get all through the five. I forget all the 5 steps, but you finally get down to sort of acceptance. And then the 6th step, that people take it to is like getting jaded about things. But the 2nd step is getting angry. And I think a lot of people think that the red pill makes guys angry at women. And I could tell you right now, there's nothing could be further from the truth, because what happens is when guys become aware of the new rule set, like I was saying, the new order, thinking, when they become aware of that, they don't get angry at women. They get angry at themselves for having believed in the old rule set for so long, because depending on how old the guy is, they probably live most of their lives according to that rule set. And now it's kind of like, oh, God damn it. Now I got to reset. Now I got to, erase everything. And I got to, figure out how to make my life work in this new paradigm. And as I said before, most guys don't have that creativity. They don't know how to see opportunity in that paradigm, because they're still kind of hung up on the things that they really wanted that were, just simply not, it's their blue pill idealism. And those ideals are gone. And they don't know how to deal with the true nature of men and the true nature of women. And it's, fed to them on a daily basis. So especially a younger generation get really despondent and get really angry. Again, I said I would argue that it's more about men getting angry at themselves, because it's like, what is it, opportunity cost? Like all of that opportunity, all the things that they could have done, the life they could have lived had they known this. That's where I wrote the 2nd book, because I had so many guys say, Roll, I wish I would have had your first book before I got divorced or got married or had kids. I took this as a major. I did, I moved to a different country, whatever. I wish I would have known that, or followed this girl across, Timbuktu. And so that's why I wrote the 2nd book, because it's sort of a timeline of what these guys can expect. But that was the most common reaction to all of this. And usually as a result of passing through that anger phase into the acceptance phase. And now what they do is they use this information to build better lives, or in some cases, save their own lives, take the noose off their neck, take the gun out of their mouth. I've got a post called, the safety net. And in that post, there's over 1,000 guys with testimonials in there saying, I literally had a date with death. I was literally planning a date for me to hang myself or, shoot myself or whatever. I was getting all the insurance, in line to make sure my kids were taken care of and everything. And then I read your book and I canceled that date. And now because of that, my kids have a father still to this day. And there's, like I said, there's over 1,000 comments. And that's usually why when people ask me for testimonials, I usually point them to that comment thread. But we can say, well, look at the comments on your blog, look at the comments in your chat. Yeah, that's going to be there because people they don't know how to deal with or cope with hard empirical data. And I'm the one giving it to. I happen to be the one giving it to them, but it doesn't mean that I got a monopoly on that, not by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay. Well, I don't have anything against red-pilled guys. I think that's the only way to go. It also it makes men more attractive if they're aware of what's going on. So I'm all for that. It's the kind of resentment that can come along with it that I think just breeds into the problem.
Well, I think we think of
along with it sometimes, not for everybody, like you said, for a small percentage of people.
Yeah. Well, again, and those are the ones who are going to leave a drive-by comment. They're the ones who are going to go, yeah, well, bitches ain't nothing but tricks and hoes, right? That'll be the comment just because they want to feel heard. You also notice, and because maybe you don't know this because you're not in my sphere, I guess, but whenever I see guys who sort of leave these one-hit comments or something, it's usually that same kind of mentality. It's guys who just, they don't even, I mean, literally, I've done YouTube shorts. I'm sure you know what YouTube shorts are.
Yeah. Like
59-second videos. And usually what I do is I clip them out of other videos because I think they're, they're pithy and whatever. I put them up. I stopped doing those, by the way. But when I started doing those, I thought they were going to be little bite-sized info bites for these guys. And what I was finding is that people who were commenting on those, and they, the viewership was fantastic on those. Mm-hmm. What I found was that you could clearly tell by the guy's comment that they didn't even watch a 59-second video. They just saw the title and they saw maybe the first 2 or 3 comments and they're like, yeah, man, bitches ain't nothing but tricks and hoes. Bye. And they won't spend the time to watch a YouTube short, but they will spend the time, probably longer time, to type out a comment because they think that they know what I'm talking about by the thumbnail or the title of the video. They look at the first 3 comments and then they go and chime in as well. That's the mentality. It's what I call the TLDR generation. It's like this generation of men and women who have ADHD, at least because of social media. They don't stop to think about things. They don't take any time to watch even a 59-second video. They will just simply go and comment because they want to feel heard. They just want to have something that says, I'm frustrated and I'm going to put this on this stupid short that I didn't watch. It's like, well, it took you like 59 seconds. You would probably save yourself from embarrassment or getting, self-ownage, right? Had you even watched that. But guys don't care because they just type it in and they're on to the next one because that they want to feel like somebody out there in the internet verse, actually gives a shit about what they say.
So in your book or in any of your books, do you give people tools about how to move forward once they're aware of how hard life is?
I think that's all I give them is tools, pretty much. How they interpret that is different. I don't say, here's how you do these things. I don't do prescriptions. I don't say, here's the one size fits all. Here's the rules. Like people love this because I have in my first book, I've got the 9 iron rules of Tomasi. And that's what most of my critics and the people who love me to death fixate on, because they think of them as being sort of like a step-by-step guide or some sort of like, here's it's like the 10 commandments, right? And I'm thinking backwards, I probably wouldn't have named them the 9 iron rules of Tomasi now had I had to do it all over again. But though I thought they were, sort of universal kind of things for guys to think about. But then I get in trouble for them because, again, people only, if they know of those 9 iron rules, they tend to always misinterpret them, or they interpret them in such a way that they can straw man me and say, oh, this is what he really meant. I don't have a guide to the universe, right? And I think anybody who's claiming that they do is selling you something. Now, I am an author now, and so do I sell books? Yes, I do. However, I also sell information, and how guys take that information and use that to their own benefit is really kind of up to the individual. The reason why I back off from prescriptions is because I don't presume to say that everything that's worked out for me will also work out for you. I can't tell somebody, like I'm 53 years old. I can't tell some kid who is 25 years old in South Africa or Nepal or Japan or whatever, that here's what's going to work for you. It's a universal truth. You just do this and you'll have a good time, or you'll be set. I'm not going to do that because I don't know what the context of their lives are. I can only give them like sort of the generalities, I guess. Like, here is women's nature. Here is men's nature. Here is the nature of the game that you are in. Here's things to look for. Here's things to expect. How you use that data is really up to the individual. As I said before, I'm not looking to create Tomasi men. I want them to make their own. In fact, I say this all the time. Show me your work. Show me what you built. Show me how you went from being like single and sexless to having a girlfriend. Show me like how you've developed your business. Show me how you have taken this data and used it to your own benefit. Because I'm not giving out like success programs. I'm not a success porn hustler. I'm a guy that is just simply giving, data. Here's some things to think about. I connect dots. What do you think of that? In fact, I say, if you think I'm full of shit, please tell me. Usually it's like, oh, you're a cult leader. Well, that's an opinion. What I want to know is, why do you disagree with this point that I made in the book? Why do you disagree with what I'm saying right here on this particular tenet? Okay, because then we can have a conversation. Then we can actually sort of suss that out and say, well, maybe here's something I thought about and maybe you didn't think about. But we don't do that in this generation because quick hit template lists of ways to go from hero to zero, that sells. That's why like people keep saying, well, you're so under monetized, Rollo. I'm just now talking to you, Michaela. I'm just now getting into like working with Robert Kiyosaki. I'm just now, people are starting to take notice. I've been doing this for 20 freaking years, but people don't, they'll quote me or they'll use terminology that they've heard from my book or something I said at some point that somebody else, third party might have said, but they don't realize where it came from. And the reason for that is because I don't sell prescriptions. If I was like Tony Robbins and said, hey guys, let's all, feel better about ourselves and put ourselves first, that sells tickets to, sell out arenas. But what doesn't is hard empirical data. Again, would you rather be happy or would you rather be right? If I'm looking at like people who are selling prescriptions and how do I go forward? How do I make a better, life for myself? I don't think anybody can answer that except for the individual, except for that person. How are you going to use this data for your own benefit? So that's why I'm not doing, Tony, I could very easily go do Tony Robbins seminars. I could very easily go and, do a world tour and say, here's the prescription for a better life. But I'm not going to do that because I think it's up to the individual to sort of cater that to their own lives.
I think that's exactly what my dad's doing on his tour. Mm-hmm. It's up to the individual. Here are some tools, as in tell the truth, don't get resentful. Mm-hmm. But I think that maybe might be an overlap with what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, and then sometimes I've said this before. It's like the red pill doesn't exist so that men will hate women. It exists so men won't hate women for what they can never be to them, and to reassess what they were thinking, what their presumptions were in the past. Sometimes that's difficult. Sometimes that's hard. Sometimes there's resentment. Sometimes guys get nihilistic because they think that it's hopeless. Well, I can never be like Andrew Tate. I can never be a kickboxer. I could never look like that. I don't have a Lamborghini. I could never be that. And that's been really my sort of mission, I guess, for the last couple of years, is to make the red pill more relatable to everybody, not just guys, driving a McLaren in Miami, but like guys who are working on a tractor in Oklahoma need this just as much as anybody else. And so I'm trying to make, really what I'm trying to do anyways, is make this data available to the everyman to so it's relatable. And I think it can be, but it can't be if I make it so specific that say, okay, here's 10 ways to be a playboy in Miami. That's going to sell to a certain demographic, but certainly not everybody. And again, it goes back to what I was saying before. The TLDR generation. Too long, didn't read. I don't know if you know what TLDR means, but it's this. We have such short attention spans right now. Like I said, people won't even watch a 59-second video. Mm-hmm. So that's the mentality that I have to deal with as a guy who's sort of like brokering in information, I guess. So for me, like I can understand, why guys want those easy answers. They want a prescription because they go, okay, so here's the solution. I want a better life. How do I get a better life? Right. And then they get like, oh, here's 10 rules for me to be, okay, I'm going to follow these rules. And they get down to the 10th rule and they go, okay, or whether or not they even get to the 10th rule is kind of like in question, because after they get to like rule number 3, they're like, throw this away and find something else because the attention span's not there. It's TLDR. So does it actually do something? Well, maybe it did, maybe it didn't, maybe it improves their lives, maybe it didn't. You're going to hear the success stories, but what you're not going to hear is the guys who just read the first three rules and threw it out the window, or like, self-help books, or, that's the number one, by the way, that's the number one genre of books for psychology is self-help. And
but why is that bad?
I'm saying it's bad. It's the desire to want to improve your life. It's not bad. That's how you're going about it. Some people do it through religion. Some people do it through psychology. Some people just do it through like perseverance and like Jocko Willink, right? I mean, just get up at 4:30 in the morning and go to get in the squat rack, which I think is probably a pretty good idea. But what's your therapy? What's your meditation? What's your program? Maybe it's making a shit ton of money in crypto. Maybe that's where you're, where you would thrive, I guess. But my point is this, is that even like having discussions of like, well, what about positivity? And what about giving these guys a program? Well, I mean, I could do that. I try to be positivity
though. That doesn't ever work for anyone, I don't think.
Well, again, would you rather be happy or would you rather be right? And most people choose right now because they can't choose anything else, because they're always plugged into social media. They're always plugged into this, this new database, and they can't escape what they used to. I mean, some guys do, right? I mean, there's still guys who play World of Warcraft and live in their sort of like escapisms. There's guys who get addicted to porn and that's their escapism, or alcohol, prescription drugs, what do you name the escape? Guys still get stuck in that because they give up as a result of too much reality. Human beings can't handle too much reality. And so again, would you rather be happy or would you rather be right? Is ignorance bliss or is it not? And that, no matter whether it's in your relationships or in your, your finances or your family or whatever else, that's a question that every human being on planet Earth is going to have to answer pretty soon. When we look at when you look at COVID, the COVID response right now, I can't believe I'm going to talk about this. When we talk about like the COVID response and just how the hysteria that has sort of come in the wake of it right now, that you're looking at an emotional response versus rational data. It's exactly what I'm talking about here, just in a different theater, just in a different arena. So we have data, we have the answers, we have everything. We see this every day. People go, oh, you're an anti-vaxxer, and they want to turn it into sort of this emotional appeal, and they want us versus them, and they want to have a two-tiered society, and let's go put people in COVID concentration camps. And it's like to the point where, like, at what point you go, like, you know what, that's kind of what those guys in 1938 in Germany did. That doesn't even occur because they're so invested in the emotional appeal. Like, I want to be happy. And then the other people who are anti-vax or who are like, hey, I'm not going to, like, for me, example, I'm not going to take the vaccine because I read the data and I see what's going on. And to me, making an empirical, reasonable, rational decision is like, I don't have anything to do with that. It looks to me like it's a, genetically modified or a genetically engineered vaccine for a genetically engineered virus. So when I look at that and I see the data and I know what, a rudimentary understanding of like what CRISPR is, I look at that and I go, no, I'm not going to do it. Don't care. And it's not a religious reason. And I don't want any religious exemption. It's not because I'm like, better than anybody else. I'm just making a rational, reasonable decision for myself. Well, at the same time, people want to like firebomb my house because they think I'm an anti-vaxxer, because that's their emotional response to my rational, reasonable response. And that's just one arena. Now put that into politics, put that into religion, put that into your personal relationships when you're trying to reproduce and, have a good life with a wife and a kid. So you're going to have to answer that fundamental question. Would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? And right now, I think we're getting to the point where nobody can be happy because we have such access to data that it preoccupies us all the time with our very short attention spans.
Yes, I agree.